welcome everyone to our webcast that deals with the Civil 3D 2023 Fundamentals Learning Guide. My name is Jeff Morris. I'm the Learning Content Developer for ASCENT, the Center for Technical Knowledge, and I'm responsible for the infrastructure segment of the Autodesk products, which comprises Civil 3D. We have a variety of learning guides in Civil 3D. This fundamentals one, fundamentals for surveyors, fundamentals for land development, vehicle tracking, the grading optimization. I'm also responsible for the Navisworks courseware, as well as the InfraWorks courseware and the Map3D courseware. So today we'll be looking at the Civil 3D 2023 Fundamentals course. The agenda will be basically looking at the two courses that are bundled up in this Fundamentals course. We have a Civil 3D Essentials course, which is a 2-day course. That is a 3-day course. And we'll be comparing the Essentials to the previous 2022 Civil 3D Fundamentals course. And we'll be looking at a few new topics that we introduced in this 2023 version. And then the second course is actually Civil 3D Beyond the Basics. And we'll be again comparing that to the 2022 Fundamentals and looking at some new topics that we introduced in this course. And then we'll be looking at the future developments where we're going from here in the next few years. So throughout the Civil 3D Fundamentals course development, things just got added more and more to the Civil 3D 2022 Fundamentals course. As you know, Civil 3D is one heck of a complex program, and there's so much in there so that the Fundamentals course, we try to introduce people to Civil 3D with the customization and how to manage it. A lot of the information went into the appendices. Many of the topics in the 2022 version started to go beyond the basics, and it was actually quite a challenge to fit everything into a 4-day course. And a lot of our teachers, a lot of the people that taught the course, let us know that, you know, some of them just basically made it a 5-day course so that they could handle as much as they needed. And others, it kind of became a pick and choose menu type option as to what they could put into 4 days. So for 2023, we took a page out of our AutoCAD course that has a 3-day Essentials course and a 2-day Beyond the Basics course. And we did that for Civil 3D. So the Civil 3D Essentials class course, which is a 3-day course, is geared towards the novices of Civil 3D. And then we've taken the more advanced topics and the configuration topics and put them in the Beyond the Basics course, which is a 2-day course, which is geared towards more advanced Civil 3D users. And I should also point out that for the Beyond the Basics course, the 2023 Essentials course is not a prerequisite because there's a lot of existing Civil 3D users that are quite familiar with Civil 3D and know what the Essentials are all about. So for them, they could take this Beyond the Basics course and get quite a lot out of it. So what we do have these two 2023 courses, the Essentials and the Beyond the Basics. And what we did to make things even more confusing is we decided to bundle them into what is now called the Civil 3D 2023 Fundamentals course, which will contain both courses. But basically, these are two independent courses. We're going to have two separate data sets, one for the essentials and one for beyond the basics. We will have two separate overheads, which are learning guides you can use. And really, this one is supposed to be taught sequentially. So you first will teach the Civil 3D Essentials class, and then you will go for the next 2 days for the Beyond the Basics class. And again, this is what we do with the AutoCAD course, and it seems quite successful. And of course, you have the choice of, you could teach the Essentials class 1 week and the Beyond the Basics class the following week. It's really up to you how you want to do it. So looking a little bit closer at the Civil 3D Essentials class, this is geared to the novices of Civil 3D. And as a prerequisite, we recommend that the students have a working knowledge of the AutoCAD software and the computer operating system, and a basic understanding of the civil terminology and concepts. This course contains 10 chapters, and we have no appendices. We use the same data set that we did in the 2022 courseware, and we have the same linear development for this Essentials class. The linear development of a typical Civil 3D project, which emulates the workflow of working within Civil 3D for a land development, roadway, corridor type project. Most of the configuration and customizing that were in the 2022 Fundamentals course has been removed from this course and introduced in the Beyond the Basics course. One big change that we did is rather than creating the surface like we did in the 2022 course, where from using contour data, we create the surface in a more traditional way using point groups and feature lines and editing the surface. Most of the surfaces created in Civil 3D are done in this way in practice. And so therefore we emulated that with this Essentials class. One thing we did introduce to the Essentials class is the quick profile. We demonstrate that, and it is actually in a practice, because the quick profile is a very nice tool to have, and so therefore we put it into one of the practices. Continuing on with the Civil 3D Essentials, as you may know, the Project Explorer was introduced in 2022 into Civil 3D. And at the time, we had it in the appendix because it was basically a new concept, and we really weren't sure how much traction it would get. Well, it turns out that it is a very useful tool, and therefore we moved it into the Essentials courseware because it really is an integral part of the Civil 3D workflow. The plan production that was always part of the Civil 3D Fundamentals course, we only use the plan production for creating plan and profile sheets and section sheets, but the configuration and customizing, again, has been moved to Beyond the Basics. Okay, so I'm going to go into Civil 3D now and show you a bit of the courseware for the Essentials. And I should also point out that because I do so many screen grabs within Civil 3D for our courseware, I've just gotten used to working with a white background. I still prefer working with a black background, but I've just gotten used to it. So we will be looking at, oh, sorry. I wanted to show you the, the structure of the courseware. We have a Civil 3D Beyond, which contains all the, is the courseware for the Beyond the Basics, as well as Civil 3D Essentials, which is the courseware for the Essentials. And if you're familiar with the 2022 fundamentals, you'll recognize the structure. I'm keeping the same structure like we did earlier. And this emulates the structure on for a typical Civil 3D project on a network. We have the working folder, and most of the projects that you're going to be using are within this working folder. So we'll look at the surface and open up the surface drawing. Now, as I said, wait for this to load, we don't use data shortcuts within the Essentials courseware. We use that for Beyond the Basics. And the surface, the ex-topo surface, you'll see has been built with point groups, as well as adding break lines, and then a variety of editing. And this is the typical way surfaces are created within Civil 3D. The quick profile is always been a wonderful tool, and we are, so this is now part of the practices. So we can create a quick profile, selecting different profile styles for different, for the multiple surfaces, so we can distinguish them. Right. We get this alert that the quick profile has been created. It's only a temporary object that will be deleted upon the save. So this is a nice, nice tool that I've always enjoyed, and it is tied to this polyline, so that as I manipulate the polyline, you see how the quick profile updates. And as that warning said, if I save the drawing, the quick profile disappears. The other thing I wanted to show you was the Project Explorer. The drawing is still loading. I normally have two screens, and I always would move the Project Explorer over to the second screen because it's so handy to have it open all the time. But we'll try to figure out how to make this work with only one screen. The nice thing about the Project Explorer is if I have different tabs for the alignments, for assemblies within the drawing, surfaces within the drawing, pipe networks and pressure pipe networks, and even AutoCAD blocks. And if I click on a particular cell, a row, I can zoom with my Z key or Z key. I can zoom to that particular structure. Just going to zoom previous here to get back. And we can, for this particular pipe run, I can select what my starting pipe and my ending pipe will be. And we can actually even change this information for the structure, whatever is in purple, I can change. So I can change the slopes moving forward or the slopes moving back. And I can also do that over multiple slopes. And I can even compare it to different surfaces so that we can see where the different surfaces, what the elevation differences between the different surfaces will be for, say, the structure rim elevations. So it's a really great tool to have. We found it part of we determined that it's actually an essential part to Civil 3D, and therefore we moved it into the Essentials courseware. Going back to our presentation here. We now move on to the Beyond the Basics course. And this is, as I mentioned, a 2-day course that deals primarily with all the Civil 3D styles and settings and customizing that used to be in the fundamentals course. The Beyond the Basics course is geared towards advanced users of Civil 3D. And like the Essentials course, we recommend a working knowledge of the AutoCAD software and the computer's operating system, and a basic understanding of the civil terminology and concepts, as well as a basic understanding of Civil 3D in general. And as I mentioned earlier, it is not a requirement for Beyond the Basics to have completed the Essentials course, because there's a lot of experienced Civil 3D users that can also find this Beyond the Basics quite useful. It contains 8 chapters. We have no appendices. And so we look at the customizing and styles and settings within Civil 3D. We look at the project management, which contains the data shortcuts that allow team members to work on a Civil 3D project with individual drawings. The parcels was always part of the appendix in the previous fundamentals course. That's now a Beyond the Basics topic. And for the surfaces, what we do here in the surfaces is we build surfaces in multiple different ways, one from contour data, one from GIS data, and one from point clouds. For the corridors, we introduced the mass hole diagram, and we have a practice creating a mass hole diagram and adjusting it. The pipes for Beyond the Basics, it's mostly configuration, building up your parts list, adding or deleting to that parts list, and for both gravity-fed pipes as well as pressure pipes. And for the pressure pipe catalog, we actually introduce different materials into one catalog. And then we have an exercise for the pressure pipe appurtenances, where we add a hydrant and check valves and gate valves. For the sheet set manager, we look at how to customize the sheet set manager. So for example, the project number and the project name will be added to the title block information. And finally, the quantity takeoff and visualization. This is as it was in the 2022 fundamentals course that we added into the Beyond the Basics course. Again, I'll do a software demonstration of that. And once again, we have a separate data set for Beyond the Basics. So even when you get the fundamentals course itself that includes both these courses, the software will still be installed in 2 separate folders, one for Beyond the Basics and one for Essentials. The Beyond the Basics is very similar to the Essentials, as well as the 2022 fundamentals. And we have the working folder. And what am I? Oh, the mass hole diagram. So we'll look at corridors to create the mass hole diagram. Now in this one, we do use data shortcuts, and we have the data shortcut folder set to be on the basics. And you'll see that a lot of the Civil 3D objects have been data shortcutted into this beyond the basic set, as you can tell by the little icon next to the surface name. And we move over to the Analyze tab, and here we have the mass hole diagram. And I'm just going to simply go through, accept everything as defaults. I'm going to add my freehold distance of 500 feet and place the mass hole diagram. So we see where the red is what we need to pay for, and the blue, I believe, is the free haul. I can adjust that so that we can start balancing it out a little bit better. I'm going to add a borrow pit at station 500 with a capacity of 2,000 cubic yards. And I'm going to add a dump site at station 950. This is all directly out of my exercises. And again, the capacity for that is 2,000 cubic yards. You see how the diagram updates accordingly. Let's just do one more tweak on that. We're going to add one more borrow pit. Notice this is going to be at 600. And as I enter the 600 station and I enter that, you notice that it's going to jump up in sequential order. So it actually falls right underneath the 500. The capacity for that is going to be 3,000 cubic yards. So here we have a nice balanced mass hole diagram, which will minimize the hauling of material back and forth, which will reduce the costs and also, excuse me, reduce the environmental impact on this project. For the pipes, we go over to the pipe networks folder. And essentially what we do is most of this is already done. I should also point out for you familiar with the, not familiar with the previous course, where we have a variety of drawings for one exercise, so that if you didn't quite complete the first exercise, you can always open up the next exercise and continue on from that. Now this works in the essentials quite well. For beyond the basics, since we're jumping around a little bit, at times you just need to open up the next drawing because a lot of information has been added into the next drawing that is not covered in the course. So for example, here we've already created the branch, we added the hydrant, and for this particular one, we will need to add the shutoff valve as well as the water valve and another branch and another hydrant. And as you can see in the next drawing, those have now been completed. So if you didn't manage to do everything successfully in the previous practice, you can open up this drawing and continue onward. So for example, in this one, we now have the water valve and the shutoff valve. We do have the hydrants, and we even demonstrate the alerts that there's unequal diameters found between the pipe and the appurtenance. And I think we go up beyond that and correct that. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So this is where we stand right now. We have this Civil 3D 2023 Essentials course. And moving forward, it's very unlikely that much will change in the Essentials course. It will more or less stay the same. It will be updated with maybe some new features with whatever Civil 3D may throw at us later on. But essentially, no pun intended, it will stay the same. Now, this essential course may serve as a foundation for more advanced or intermediate courses. For example, advanced corridors or advanced pipes or advanced grading, so that you can take the essentials course, which covers the basics of the corridors, and then you can take the advanced corridor course if we develop something like that, to move on to learn more about corridors or pipes or grading or whatever other things are deemed to be necessary to start mastering Civil 3D.